Are you looking to buy, sell, or invest in the Bay Area real estate market this spring? This is the perfect video for you because I'm going to go over what has been going on with the market, how has inventory been handling all throughout the different counties of the Bay Area, along with how is that impacting price. We do hear about things about layoffs with these companies, and that is going to continue to happen on one end. On the other end, there's a lot of people that are also still being hired by these companies, and people from all around the world are coming and moving to the Bay Area because they need to be close to their job, because most of these companies have a strong return to office mandate. So how are those two things balancing out? And looking at the data will give you a little bit of a glimpse, because I'm going to show you how this month has been versus the last month, but I'm also going to show you how this month compares and stacks against the same time last year. So that way you can make an informed decision yourself as to whether you think this is the right time for you personally to buy, sell, or invest in the Bay Area real estate market. My name is Spencer Hsu. In the last year itself, I've helped over 60 families with their moves in the Bay Area. So if you're watching this, you probably are thinking, I haven't talked to Spencer yet, or maybe you have, and I appreciate for those that subscribe, maybe I need to have a conversation with him so that I can go over the best options together and just cut to the chase. Like, where are my best options, what's doable, and how do I get from wherever I need to get to, either a home that you already own or from a rental into a home. That's how we've been able to help people literally every single week, even this year, with that goal. So my contact details are below, 408-547-4590. But let's jump into the market data itself so you can see what is actually going on. Now, when we look at the market indicators, we're going to look at four main categories, because these are the biggest things that are important really when it comes to determining like where are things going, how are things getting impacted, and let's break it down. Number one, it's inventory. We always hear about inventory. Inventory is up, inventory is down. What in the world does that mean? It simply means how many more homes are being on the market relative to the demand of absorbing it. So there's a ratio of how many come up and how long it may take to ultimately remove all of those homes. Certainly, the lower it is, it's much more of a seller's market. It's harder for buyers, right? Because you have less to choose from. The higher it is, it's a little bit more favorable. Now, generally, what it means is usually plus or minus 6 months is more of a quote-unquote balanced market. And so you'll always see the Bay Area is going to be historically always a seller's market, because you have tons of buyers that make a lot of money that want to ultimately own a place, or you have many owners, many people that have multiple homes and they're just buying the next one. So that's a little bit of the backstory. Median price. This is the middle sold price that divides the residential real estate market into equal halves, with half of the prices below and half above. So it kind of gives you the medium bar. So it's a pretty helpful indicator, especially when we're looking at so many thousands of data points for these individual counties. Days on market, simply how long it takes on average for homes to transact. Usually that's pretty consistent. And then last but not least, the number of closed sales. How many actually have fully closed? Not they got in contract, but they actually changed hands. So the buyer and seller had actually occurred. And this is so important because every area you're going to see, and you're going to see some trends. And the most important thing is the number of active homes or inventory. You can see huge increase, right? February 2025, 6,763. This is significantly higher than what we have of last year and significantly higher than the last month, which is a positive thing, right? These are historically of last year and the previous years, we've had some of the lowest inventories ever, which also led to some of the lowest amount of transactions ever. But now things have picked up. Now, these are not back to pre-COVID levels, by the way, but they are a lot better. And that means you as a potential buyer or you as a homeowner wanting to buy the next place, you guys will see more homes to choose from. Now, the question is, are home prices declining because you have more inventory? Or does that also just mean there's a lot more buyers in? So it's actually a win-win for both. And the reality and the answer is, look at this. The median sales price is at $1.261 million in February 2025. And this is all counties in the Bay Area, by the way. And we're going to break it down separately so you can see who are the huge winners and who are the ones that are not gaining as much, because it's very, very clear. And this, if you watched my last video, you would have already predicted and known this, because I already saw this from the clients that I have that are pending. Now, if you look at this, look, it's about 50K higher than the same time last year, right? So that's about a 4% increase. But it's quite a bit higher than the numbers from January, right? This is nearly 10% increase since January. Now remember, January transactions are from December activity, right? December in contract will close in January. So even now, these February numbers are still from January transactions, right? But these are January transactions have closed. So there will be a still run up in terms of prices, which is a very normal thing. So do not be surprised that spring will have a normal run up. Now, you may have more homes to see, which is the positive things, but both things can come up, right? Just because there's more inventory doesn't mean home prices go down. That's not how it works. Because the demand side is really hard to see, right? You as somebody watching, you would have no idea what the demand is, but I would. Or if you go to an open house, you will also get a general sense. So the demand is always there. The question is always, do individuals want to spend their money? And these days, the answer is a strong yes, because they all want to improve either from a school perspective or more importantly, from a commute perspective. That's why people are moving from all over the world, but also even all around the Bay Area. You see a big migration from even places like are in Contra Costa County, in Alameda County, like the Tri-Valley, Dublin, Pleasanton, San Ramon. These areas, a lot of people want to move back because that commute is already 2 hours one way. So these are all very significant things that people have to make a decision on of, look, I have to give up this really nice house, new house, because I'm tired of driving 2 hours one way. That is not sustainable. And so that's why you see what you see. Okay? So that gives you the general highlights of the inventory, but also the median sales price. Days on market, this goes back to normal, right? 11 days is the median days on market. And usually it's actually faster. Sometimes it's a little bit longer just because there are some homes that are on the market longer because they're overpriced, or there are some holidays as you may have experienced through the January time. Closed sales, you can see it's quite a bit higher. So all of these things have been a healthy, more robust market in the sense of there's more transactions, prices are rising, but at least there's more homes to choose from, but also more homes being absorbed, as you can see. These are much higher than last year, right, by 800, so that's like 40% more, and same from the last month. So these are all positive signs. Now, let's kind of talk about general numbers, right? Inflation, it's been pretty stable for now, 3% now. It's getting a little higher, but it's not too bad. Interest rates, fortunately, the bond yields have done well, and so right now you're at a little bit lower, still mid to high sixes. If you're buying a jumbo, some of my clients are in the mid fives right now. Unemployment has been fine. Supply has been higher, as you saw. Population kind of stays the same. If not, more people have moved into the area. So here's some like general stats across all the different counties in the Bay. The average sold price per square foot is at $865. List price received, it's an up market, as you have saw, 105.7%. Inventory, months of inventory has been pretty good. They've been plus or minus 3 months. Now the question is, let's break it down by counties. Let's see which counties are doing better than others. You saw the general numbers. All the general numbers are up. But is it equally distributed? And the answer is no. Now when it comes to active inventory though, most areas have increased, right? You can see San Mateo County, 700 versus last year, 522. So these are general increases. Look at the median sales price though, $1.688 million now. Versus what it was before at same time last year, 1.55. That is what, 1.1 million, so equivalent to like 78%. So it's been a pretty positive increase. I suspect this will continue to happen. So don't be surprised with that. Days on market, just as competitive and as attractive as what you saw from the overall counties. And then closed sales. Interesting enough, the closed sales is actually lower than the same time last year. It is higher than last month. But this is kind of an interesting surprise. We will see how things play out of that. It could just be the products were not that good. We will see as the months goes on here. But the most important part, as you can see, median price has increased. Here's some other key numbers. The months of inventory, very similar to the others. List price, very similar. But the price per square feet, take a look at this. Be mindful. If you're going to end up buying in San Mateo County, it will be one of the highest price per square feet in the area, right? So just be mindful. That's what you're going to... The homes can be smaller, but the value is certainly still there, okay? Now, let's talk about Santa Clara. Santa Clara is where you have a lot of big tech companies, and a lot of those big tech companies have required people to be in the office. So let's see how that has been impacted. Number one, inventory. Look how much it has increased. 1603 versus the same time last year at 983. That's a significant amount. That's 700 more, right? Maybe 600 something more homes versus February. And the reason is because, look at this price. Median sales price, 1.65 versus February of last year, 1.46. This is one of the biggest increases that you will see in all of the Bay Area, right? Do that math. That's more than 10%. That's like 12% in a year. And it's not stopping, by the way. If you're going to be making a bid, you got to be mindful of this, and you got to put this into consideration when you're making a bid, because remember, these are all old numbers. These are all historic numbers. So you will see this, but you got to be careful too. Single family is the one that has these increases. The townhomes and condos are not as significant. So you got to be careful of how you differentiate the two. And this is why working with a local realtor and a local expert like myself gives you that edge. And this is why you got to reach out. Just take the time, pause this video, reach out to me. Let's set up a time. You're going to enjoy working with me, and you're going to save a lot of time and money. Now, let's continue. Days on market. Look at this. 8 days. Very, very strong. Some of the fastest that you have seen in all of the Bay Area, right? Next, closed sales. It's still lower, interesting enough, than the same time last year, but it is higher than last month at 627. And last but not least, take a look at some of these numbers, right? The price per square foot. For a long time, San Mateo County used to have a very big lead. Now even Santa Clara County has already caught up, like very, very close as you've seen. List price received, you saw how much of an increase it is. That's not surprising that you're going to have the biggest delta. New listing 1658, that's pretty healthy. 2.6 months of inventory, much lower than the average that you just saw. Okay, let's look at Alameda County. What's been going on there? Listed inventory, all the same. This has been happening almost in every county. There's only one county which you'll see momentarily that hasn't actually increased, which is kind of a weird thing. But everywhere else has more homes on the market that's available to be selected. The price here has still done well, right? $1.179 million. So there's still an $80,000 increase, so it's still 6-7%. But I would segment this based off of two general areas, right? Alameda County is a very big area that goes on both sides of the hill. And so the ones that are like in the Fremont, Newark, I still see a lot of interest and a lot of activity. The ones that are on the other side of the hill, a little bit less, right? So just be mindful of the stats. It is broken down that way just because just getting over that hill is already another 30, 45 minutes itself. So they have still done well, right? Things are still moving. Days on market, still good, 11 days, just on average. Closed sales, 546. So it's an increase in the previous month, but interesting enough, still less than same time last year. Look at the stats. 106.8% is the average list price received. The price per square foot, though, look at this. It's way, way, way less than what you just saw previously when it comes to comparing to Santa Clara County and San Mateo County. This is exactly the reason why people choose to sacrifice their commute to be out in a much cheaper area for a much larger home, right? Months of inventory 3.1, a little bit higher than the average. Let's look at Contra Costa County. So Contra Costa County, same thing. Inventory is higher. You're going to see a similar trend happening throughout. The median price, look at this, 782. Look at the same time of last year, 770. It's only 10,000. So this is the lowest you have seen so far, right? Goes back with the same exact trend that I brought up. If you have the ability to do commute or go to public transit, you can get incredible deals right now as we speak for that reason. Okay? Next, days on market a little bit higher than the previous, and then the other areas, but still 13 days, still moving relatively quickly. Closed sales, same kind of pattern, less than the same time last year, more than the previous month. Take a look at some of these numbers. The price per square foot, even lower, right? Contra Costa County is one of the lowest that you could get, period, in all of the Bay Area. So that's why people choose to be there. List price 102.1%. That's also the lowest that you have seen across the board. All right, so you have two other ones, right? San Francisco. Look at the inventory here. This is the only one that has less inventory than the previous year. So this is the interesting outlier, right? I don't know the exact reason why it has less. Maybe some people have been moving back, decided not to sell anymore. That may be the only reason that I can think of, right? When you look at prices, though, it's actually lower than the same time last year, 1.31 versus 1.397. So that's a complete difference versus everything else that we have seen, right? Every other county actually has some level of increase. Now, when you compare it to January, it is higher. But when you compare it to the same time last year, it's actually a decline. So the boom going back to San Francisco has not occurred as the media or people may want you to see. Now, we do still have to segment that, right? The single-family market is still way better than the condo market, but still, even as an overall city, you see the data yourself. Days on market is a little bit longer, only 14 days. And the number of activity closed sales follows everyone else's trend, right? Lower than the same time last year, but higher than the previous month. The stats on this, but might be mindful of this. Look at the price per square foot. Even though you saw the prices, it still isn't like significantly cheaper. But if you look at the list price received, that's also an interesting thing too. So the reason I want to bring this up for San Francisco is it's not like the homes are going up 7% a month. It's by default, they like to list homes lower on purpose, especially when it comes to single family. So do not be duped in thinking that a list price is a fair price, especially in that city. Okay? Because otherwise, you just saw for yourself. Otherwise, if it was really like this, you would have seen an increase in price, but you don't. So be very mindful. Different cities have their different games, and because we have personally helped people from all across the Bay, in every different city, in every different neighborhood, we already knew this, but you got to know this, and it's best to know this up front so you're not looking in the wrong areas that wouldn't have fit your budget anyways. Okay? Last but not least, let's look at Marin County. So Marin County, look at the active inventory is higher than both. That's been happening across the board. Look at prices though. Prices have done quite well. Look at the increase though from February to January. Look, I mean, that's pretty staggering. Now, granted, there's some homes that weren't that interesting that probably came on the market during that time. But if you even compare it to February 2024, it's still a pretty healthy increase. 7-8%. That's pretty strong, right? I'm actually surprised with this number, especially as I would have guessed it would have followed kind of a similar trend as what we saw previously in January. But let's keep tracking this, because the question is, were there outliers for this or not? But it's a pretty interesting beat. Just like when you hear stocks, when you have a beat on earnings, this is a very surprise beat, in my opinion. So that's that. If you look at the days on market, things have improved drastically versus what you saw from the previous month. It was skewing the wrong way, but 15 days kind of goes back even better than last year and sometime in February. Closed sales. I mean, look at this number. This is a huge amount that have closed in Marin County. So for whatever reason, there's just a lot of activity happening versus the previous months, right? And then here's some general stats in terms of what's been actually happening. They do list their prices, you can see, a lot closer to where it will be versus some of these other areas that are either on the upswing or not. So the question that everyone should always have is, now the right time to buy or not? As a buyer, you do have to segment it. If you're buying a townhome or condo, different experience versus single family. At the end of the day, the single family will always be very competitive. There's nothing that's going to really change on that. The good news is you have a lot more options. The bad news is you're going to be competing with a lot more people. And so it is what it is. If you are pickier, and as long as your budget still falls in line with the market, you will be fine. So don't think you can try to time it. That's a waste of time. As long as it works, you should be able to move in and you'll be fine. And I can help you strategize on that. And the other question is, why wait? If you look at the stats, if you live in an area for at least 3 years, you will likely make money. That's just how it has been for decades. Even in the worst real estate crash in history in 2008, it was still this way. And so that's your fundamental question you need to ask yourself. One, is your job stable? And that's your own personal decision. Two, do you plan to be, even if it wasn't stable, do you plan to be in the area for a while? Because some people, you never know what will happen with their job, but as long as you have reserves, you'll be fine. And as long as you can ride things out, you will be fine. And so why wait and keep wasting money on rent or keep wasting time in a smaller place that doesn't work? You can move on. There are options, and I can help you calculate that within a matter of minutes. And the next question is, do you think home prices will rise in the next few months? Probably the answer is yes. Right? You have seen what it is. We're only in the beginning of March when we're filming this, right? So there's still many, many months left. And so that's just the reality. And even if it does dip in summer and fall, the question that you have no idea about is, how much does it really dip? Is it even lower than today? You have no idea, number one. Number two, you still got to find the house that you like. Like, for example, when I bought my house, we bought a new house a couple years ago. Even if we were looking from then to now, we still couldn't have found a better house that would have fit our needs in 2 years. Never mind about prices and discounts or whatever. Like, the house that you like is still, you got to fit the check boxes that are unique to you. Like, you don't have a generic cookie cutter checklist. There's got to be direction of the home. There got to be layout. There got to be condition. There got to be how many beds. They got to fit the budget. They got to be the areas. Like, there's so many variables that this is not like the stock market where you can just get in and out of an S&P index, right? You can't time it like that. You got to be like, this is the right time for us. Now we got some check boxes we got to do. We plan to live in for 3 to 5 years. As long as it meets those goals, you go. And that's how our clients have all been successful, and they've all been super happy about it. But that's also the reality of what to do. Now, it also reverts on the reverse side. Many of you guys are listening because you're thinking about selling a place, right? So the question is, what's happening? I got to change a few of this. But number one, there is more inventory, right? So there is a lot more buyers. There's a lot more competition. So you have to be mindful for that. How is your product stacked against others? Like we see a lot more competition, a lot more homes on the market. Those really nice homes are still going to stand out and do well. But those are not as nice. You got to be looking out and see who you're against, right? So you got to be mindful of that. Number two, you just got to get an understanding of the market. Fortunately, most of the time, your home is worth more than it was before. That's the good news. The rising tide has lifted all boats in this case, right? And so even if you didn't do anything, you may have gotten lucky that generally it could have simply been better. But you never know, right? Some of these numbers that sell is because of one very aggressive buyer. And your goal is working with someone like myself to try to attract that one aggressive buyer that is tired of looking and just wants to move in. And so that may skew things. And the most important is the question is, what do you want to do next, right? Do you want to cash out? I got some clients that are watching this. They have money, a lot of money in their home. Why sit on that money and do nothing with it, right? Like, why not you sell that and then you can move on to a smaller home? You don't need to have a much upkeep. You have something probably more energy efficient, but then you may also have a lot more capital to then just give out to your friends, your family, your children, so that they can enjoy their lives. Right? Because a lot of these cases, when a lot of people in the Bay Area have very equity-rich homes, but you can't really do anything with that equity until you cash out, because right now it doesn't make too much sense to refinance or pull money out of that either. And so generally the way that people can solve that is by selling it, getting that money, use it as other assets, or giving it to some of their children, which I've seen that happening a lot. So those are all things to be mindful of. So if you found value in this, you gotta be sure to like it, you gotta subscribe to the channel, and share this with a friend. And even better, do an intro with me and a friend, right? I'd be happy to sit down with them, go over a game plan, because my goal every single month when I do this video is that you literally see for yourself what is actually happening. Now, I know what will happen for the next month because I know what these numbers are pending for and what they will result in. And so the people that watched this last month already knew these exact predictions. Like, I was spot on with these numbers. Santa Clara County, big winner, right? And so these are all like competitive advantages that people have to then working with me, but also at the end of the day, we help people with their game plan, understanding the best area for the budget, and then progressing forward to next steps. So if you found this video helpful, just send me a text, give me a call, send me an email. We can set up a time as early as whenever you watch this, and then we can get you having the proper foundation and then actively looking for the best home. See you next time. Stay dry. Talk soon.